Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the MSU Science Festival. I'm here with Bart, Mehmet, and Parva to talk to you about Do Your Fish Get Sick? Parva, I'm very interested in hearing more. Please take it from here.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, and I hope you guys are doing great. Happy Saturday, people. We are from Aquatic Animal Health Laboratory, and we study infectious diseases in fish. So, why is it important to know if your fish is sick or not? With us humans, it is kind of obvious, right? Like we have so many physical symptoms like fever or body aches or chills, or we just get cranky. But with fishes, it's kind of hard because they all just swim around all the time, right? In their tanks. And how do you know if your pet is not feeling well? Speaking of pets, now talking about pets, the dogs have to top the charts when it comes to pet owning households in the United States. There are 63.4 million households that have dogs. Followed by cats, there are 42.7 million households that have cats. After that, fishes have to come in. Fishes are the third most popular pet when it comes to pet owning households. Well, technically speaking, we could have like a dog or two per household, but when it comes to an aquarium, we probably have way more fishes, right? So let's dig in. This is Bob. He is a normal pet in your aquarium. And with Bob, there are so many bad guys hanging in his home, like bacteria, viruses, parasites, or fungi that could infect Bob and probably make him really sick. So, how would you say if your pet is not feeling well? Like, just like humans, there are a few obvious symptoms that fishes would show, like different changes in behavior. Like, it could start swimming really close to the air source, or it could start swimming upside down, or not swim at all. And one of the other classical symptoms of having a sick pet fish would be the fish taking a lot of naps. Apart from these characteristics that are mostly behavioral, we have few physical prominent changes that could indicate that there's something wrong going on. Like the fish could show obvious signs of wounds and then eaten up fins, or damaged scales and pins and scars all over, or lesions. Now, there could be small lesions too. It's not necessary to see these big lesions, but there could be small lesions that could go unnoticed. And all these characteristics and then different symptoms could be because of the infection from the bad guys that we saw earlier. So, let me tell you a little about the most common freshwater diseases found in fish. So let's start with the white spot disease. It is caused by EEK. It is a very popular protozoan parasite because it infects a huge range of fish, talking about goldfish, guppies, angelfish, and so on. And your infected pet would look like it is swimming inside the snow. It looks cool, right? But what actually is going on is this parasite sticking onto the surface and then damaging the skin, fin, and gills to an extent that it might die soon. So, how does this EEK parasite grow on your host? So, this is your parasite, this is your fish, which looks like it is swimming in the snow all sparkly, and this is the adult parasite on the skin surface. So, it takes in the nutrients from your fish and then grows up to an optimal size. It matures and then gets released in the water to produce baby parasites. Now it sticks onto the water surface, maybe the glass surface or the other decoration material, and then starts reproducing. And after these baby parasites are formed, they take in nutrients, become young, and then they become infectious and then find another host inside the aquarium to probably go on and infect. Dangerous, right? After EEK, let's just jump into skin fluke. Skin fluke is another very deadly pathogen. What makes it more interesting is not the whole wide host range, but its capacity to damage the skin and fin severely. And how does it do it? It has got hepters. These hepters resemble the hook of Captain Hook, and they are useful for attaching to the host and then grazing on it. Now, how does this look like under a microscope, right? This is a typical picture of the parasite grazing on the fins on the of the skin surface. They use these hepters to stick on to the host when it is swimming or doing its normal activities and not fall off and suck in all the nutrients. It resembles like a vacuum cleaner technically, but it just sticks onto a spot. So how does this one replicate? So after hooking on to your pet, it never leaves. It just stays there for forever till your pet dies. And it replicates just like your Russian dolls. Like in this picture, we can see a baby parasite growing inside the mother, and it has got these tiny little hooks. So after it is released, it is going to get hooked on the surface like this, and then start reproducing and then carrying on its cycle. This is how your fish looks like, the surface of the skin when it is infected. And the replication rate depends mostly on the temperature and pH. So it is easy technically to stop this disease, to stop spreading this disease and stop this disease to get infected to your pets by altering temperature and pH. Cool, right? We can just do minor changes and then it would help your fish to not get this deadly disease. Now, talking about other deadly disease, let's talk about molds. So molds can also infect your fish severely. They grow on top of your fishes, and it looks like it is inside. It is on the surface, but just as it is on the surface, the hyphae-like projections, these cotton-like projections, they could go in and then penetrate the skin and infect it more, and slowly kill the fish, just like this. It looks like a cotton yarn wrapped around your fish. Now, this is how it looks like under a microscope. These are the hyphae that we were talking about that penetrates the skin. And these are small sporangiums. They are pocket-like structures, like kangaroo's pocket, but they have a small infectious spore. Now, talking about all the things that could go wrong with your fish, let's talk about how to keep it healthy. These are a few do's and don'ts that would probably be helpful. Like first, don't overfeed the fish. By overfeeding, what we're doing is we are increasing the level of ammonium in the tank, which could make fishes more prone to getting infected. The next and the most important is to keep an optimal water temperature. Because unlike us humans, fishes are cold blooded animals, so they regulate their body temperature depending on the surrounding temperature. Next, it is really important to keep tanks clean. Clean it regularly, clean it inside out, change that water about 10 or 20% per week because these bad guys, they grow not only just in the water, but on the surface as well, on the glass, on the decorations. So it is really necessary to keep it clean. And next time when you go visit your vet, you could probably ask more about fishes and get to know them more. So now we saw that it is really important to keep your aquarium clean. Let's talk about how to do it. Like this is a small illustration of an aquarium where Bob lives. It is filthy, it is full of algae and then molds and then probably other parasites that could grow and then infect the fish. So how do we stop that? First, we could probably try introducing a friend for Bob who's vegetarian and loves eating algae. So he could totally eat up all the algae for him. But before you do that, I would probably consult your pet store and make sure that Bob and the other fish are compatible. You don't want them fighting, right? Next good thing would be buying a good product to clean and scrape off those algae and mold your surface of the aquarium, or like clean it with proper detergents when it comes to cleaning the decorations. And it is important to make sure that they are not harmful to your skin of fish because it might go on and then do some allergic reactions. So I would make sure with the pet store about that too. And lastly, you should avoid keeping the aquarium in direct contact of sunlight because even after doing all these things, there could be few negligible algae remaining in the tank, which could grow with the adequate amount of sunlight. And hopefully, after doing all these procedures, taking proper care, your aquarium would be so clean, healthy, and the fishes would be happy swimming around. They would be safe from all these bad guys, the bacteria, the pathogens, the parasites, and they would be happy hanging around with their friends. Thank you all so much for taking interest in our presentation and taking out time to know more about fishes. Thank you all so much and have a great weekend. Now, if you guys have any questions for me, I would be happy to answer.
Thanks, Parva. That was wonderful. I learned a lot, especially because I haven't owned a fish in probably 20 years.
Oh,
So
wow.
For our attendees, those that are on Facebook, please write it as a comment for your questions, and those that are on Zoom, please put it in the Q&A. In the meantime, though, while you're all typing your questions, I have a lot of questions because, like I said, I haven't owned a fish in a while.
Yeah.
I know that you said that you should switch out 10 to 20% of the water. Is there a specific kind of water you're supposed to be using in these aquariums, like a filtered water or deionized, or do you just put your tap water in there?
So, Dr. Bart, do you want to take on the water? Because I'm not owning a fish myself.
I mean, the answer for this really depends on what kind of aquarium you get. So it's always advisable to use filtered water for sure, because it's important not to use the water directly from the sink because it contains chloride. So if you use the water taken directly from the sink, you're gonna burn the gills of your fish because the chloride is very irritant. So for some more specific aquarium, also the ionized water may be more adequate.
And whenever you're cleaning the tank, how do you go upon this to keep the fish safe during the process?
So for cleaning the tank, like I go on and then help my other friends when they have pets, and then when I go visit their houses. So what we did the other day was that we transferred the fishes in a small bucket so that they're not being exposed to all these chemicals, because sometimes these chemicals can be so harmful. Like the friend I was visiting, they also used in vinegar, but make sure that you're not emptying the whole bottle, right? They just made a tiny 2 drops of vinegar in the whole glass, and then we scrubbed it off and then made sure the fishes, they have a small tank too, so we transferred them in the small tank in the meantime, and then scrubbed it off, cleaned it off, and then wiped it entirely, and then added the fishes back in.
But you can also remove the rocks, the other stuff, and clean them separately. So then you can use also some bleach, some stronger detergent. Just make sure then you rinse properly those objects before putting back in the aquarium.
Yeah, we definitely don't want the fish to interact with bleach.
Oh no.
No.
That would be very bad.
That is very bad.
Is there something that you can treat the water with regularly to help deal with these parasites and these different bacteria that may occur to maybe prevent it other than by switching out the water?
So other than switching out the water, it is really important to keep an optimal pH. Now the pH level depends from like species to species, like what species do you have of fish. So I would say like properly first consult a vet and then ask what pH you need. And then properly, they have these like alkaline and then like other solutions that they add. So the friend I was visiting, they had this other small solution that they just add a couple drops to make the water alkaline. And then that would help controlling the other pathogens and parasites. I think Dr. Bhatt probably knows more about that than me.
Yeah, in general, the most important thing is to keep the water clean, because that is already a very good way to keep all those parasites in a very low concentration, if they are, and maybe avoid also the formation of mold, bacteria, slime, and any other pathogen that can harm the fish. So keep clean. And there are also some general products that can be added. But for this, I will just advise you to ask to the pet shop if there is any product that is adequate to the type of aquarium that you get, because there is a big difference between the different types of aquarium. So you always need to make sure that you're using the right product for your right aquarium and the right species of fish as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of diversity within the ocean.
Oh, yeah.
And even
Huge.
within freshwater. So like I'm from Miami, Florida, and I'm used to like salt water. So would it be easier to own a saltwater tank because maybe the salt might help clean the tank easier? I'm not sure about that. Like what would be easier, freshwater or saltwater tank?
General freshwater tank, it's much easier. It's also cheaper and easier. But again, it really depends on what kind of aquarium you want to set up, because if you can set up a larger aquarium, Then also keeping a marina water aquarium could be nice. Then it depends what kind of species you want to put in your aquarium, because marine aquarium with invertebrate like with corals are a little bit more difficult to maintain. So it's also depend on your budget, on your time dedication, expertise. So for this, it's really important to have a good contact with your pet shop, to have also advice on what kind of aquarium it's more adequate for the time, money that you want to put on, space. There are many aspects to consider it.
Yeah, I bet some fish demand a lot more attention than others.
Definitely.
Let's say that unfortunately your fish does get sick. How would the fish vet take care of that? Because I would think like with humans, like if we get an infection, they'll give us some kind of salve or pill. But I would also imagine that it's really difficult to put a salve on a fish or to even give them a pill.
Well, you're not gonna give a pill to fish, but you can put some medicament in the feeding. Normally, what we do, we pour the medicament, the chemical, in the water, so fish can get the treatment through the skin, through the gills, anyway. But again, it's really important to do this in a very careful way, because when you add any chemicals to your aquarium, there's not just the fish inside. There are also plants, there are the bacteria in the filter, which are really important. So you need to make sure that you're not destroying this kind of ecosystem that you have created in your aquarium, just to get rid of some parasites that are on your fish. So sometimes what the vet does, we take out the fish from the aquarium, and we do the treatment in a small tank, in a separated tank, and then once the fish is ready to go back in the aquarium, you can put back. So also the quarantine, it's really important. So when you buy a new fish from the pet shop, make sure that you keep for some time also in a separate tank if it's possible. So to check if the fish in over a few days is developing any form of disease, because in that way you avoid to transmit those pathogens, those parasite or mold or bacteria, to the other fish that are already in the aquarium that maybe are totally healthy.
Oh, for some reason, I assumed that like if one fish was infected, all of them would be infected. But from what you just told me, that's not the case.
Oh yeah, they can get very quickly infected, although it really depends on the individual health status of every single fish. Like for humans, like for example now COVID, it's everywhere, but not every person get infected. There are some persons that get infected, some persons that develop the disease, some persons that die as well. The same is for the fish. They may all get a parasite, for example, like Gyrodactylus or ick, those that Parva has shown today, but only some fish, the one that maybe are more immunodepressed, that have a lower immune system, they can die, while the other, they will just keep going until when maybe the water quality become poor, and then they can get stressed for some other reason. So keeping a good level of low stress in fish is extremely important, because that the stress is predisposing the fish to infection and also to suffer from diseases.
Yeah, it's something that I think everyone should realize, that in any species, just stress is not good for you. So about the plants, whenever you have those plants in the aquarium, are some of them maybe going to contribute, or maybe some of them fight against these diseases and pathogens?
No, really, in terms of fighting, no. But they certainly contribute to create a better ecosystem, which then can also contribute to keep the water cleaner by reducing the formation of a toxic component through the water, by reduce their concentration. So in some way they also reduce the contamination that can be very harmful for the fish to create a stressing condition for the fish. And
That makes
also
sense.
they make better aquarium. It's much better than aquarium with live plant.
And whenever you're cleaning the aquarium, how do you clean the plant? Do you just wash it out?
Yeah, you can. It really depends what kind of plant you have, because there are some plants with a large leaf, for example, the anubias, which you can also scratch a little bit, like with your fingers or with a very soft sponge. Other plant, it's a little bit more complicated. So sometimes it's just better to just cut out the part of the plant that is full of algae or full of dirty stuff and let them grow again. Or some other time, it's also good to take the plant out in a separate tank as for the fish, do the treatment in a separate container, and then put back the plant. But again, also for this, asking to a good pet shop, it's also very important, because there may be also some specific product that can be applied to plant instead of also killing the plant, because of course the product can be toxic for the live plants as well.
Yes, of course. Everyone who's listening, please take your pet to the fish vet and do not take care of the fish on your own if you see any of the symptoms that Parva had mentioned earlier. Thank you so much, Parva, Bart, and Mehmet, for joining us today. We really enjoyed talking to you, and everyone else, please stay tuned for the rest of our presentations for the rest of April for the MSU Science Festival. Thanks again.
Thank you so much for
Thank you very
having us.
much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you
Enjoy
all.
your fish.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Have a good week.